For today's final session, I would like to introduce Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer Ron Keesing to the stage.
All right, well, sadly, I have to admit I am, in fact, real. So, but I'm very excited to lead today's technology panel for the Supplier Symposium. And I'm really incredibly happy to have this extraordinary panel we get to talk to today. First off, from CEO of Sourcegraph, Quinn Slack. Come on up, Quinn. Second of all, another great CEO from one of our partners, Bhavin Shah from Moveworks. All right, next up, our next great panelist, Tom Soderstron from AWS. Tom is the enterprise strategist for AWS and a deep expert in all things AI. I'm really excited to hear from him today. And finally, our last panelist from our Digimod sector, our CTO, Eric Moore. All right, so really excited to talk to all of you today. For those who heard from Tom Bell this morning, you heard him talk about the importance of partnerships. One of the striking things, we're here at something we call the Supplier Symposium, and yet again and again, we've heard this word partner today, far more than we've heard supplier. For us, the importance of partners moving forward is huge. And so, I'd really like to talk with each of you about how we're going deeper in terms of technology partnerships and developing differentiated solutions we can bring to our partners together. So my first question today is for Quinn and Bhavin. Both of you lead companies that have developed great new partnerships with Leidos. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about Sourcegraph and Moveworks, and then also tell us about how you're working with Leidos to develop these deep technology partnerships and differentiated solutions. So Quinn, why don't you get us started?
So Sourcegraph solves this problem when an organization has so much code, old code that nobody understands, and yet they still need to be making new things. How do you deal with that complexity? We started out by building code search, like a Google for all of the code in an organization. We've gotten many of the biggest banks in the US, the biggest technology companies, and now through Leidos, some incredible missions in government and beyond. And on top of that code search foundation, with the advent of the new large language models, naturally, we were experimenting, and we found several years ago that if you feed code to an LLM and you ask it to fix this, or help me understand why was this done 20 years ago this way, or all of these other hard things in software engineering, well, AI is actually incredibly good at that. And what's interesting too is it's very good at the parts of the job that software developers like the least and that are the most tedious. So it was that insight that led us to build Cody, our Code AI product. And when we were building it more than a year ago, we heard from Leidos, and we heard the incredible potential they saw in the government to modernize software, to accelerate software development, to make it more efficient, to increase quality. And at the time, we thought, well, AI used by software engineers, it's still early. We don't know if these organizations are actually ready for it, but we saw such incredible insight and vision from Leidos, and they were the very first partner that we chose to work with to bring Cody to more organizations. So we've been thrilled by the partnership so far, and it's also very early. So we are excited to keep working with Leidos.
Awesome. So Moveworks, for those that don't know, is a generative AI co-pilot that employees use to search and take actions across all business systems. So think about IT support, HR questions, generalized search and automations, all being leveraged and used through the natural language interface that an LLM can provide. And we have about 5 million end users on the platform today across mostly the private sector. And that was actually what brought us to partner with Leidos. Is they're, of course, the largest government IT provider. And we really wanted to bring this technology into the public sector, but didn't know the best practices and the best way to do that. And so whether it was helping us along the FedRAMP journey, which Leidos has been doing, or it's working with them on creating specific instantiations of our platform for the IC community and the defense community, these collaborations have really helped us along this journey.
Great, thanks. Well, Tom, AWS needs no introduction to this audience, but I do want to share, AWS has been a partner of Leidos and a deep technology partner for a long time. I mean, I go back to our groundbreaking work developing our edge to cloud solution, where we were kind of the first to bring the capability to use your snowballs and snow cone technology to drive tactical data out to the edge. So, can you tell us a little more about how AWS and Leidos work closely together as technology partners?
Sure, and I think the more accurate question is, how do we work together as partners? Because it isn't just about technology anymore. It's like when cloud came out, it was all about technology. With generative AI is much more. So we work together now. I think you can summarize it in 6 words. We think big together. So we now have a strategic collaboration agreement. So come up with lots of crazy ideas. Then we start small, lots of ideas, white papers, proof of concepts, trying it out. And then we scale fast. And I think it's really about scale. AWS has the infrastructure. Leidos has the customer intelligence and relationships, and knows the infrastructure. So part of the thinking big is, and co-investing here, we have 500 Leidos people have been certified. So now you know that they can do the work. The customer knows they can do the work. So I think this is really key. Leidos has done many first things for AWS and for themselves, like using generative AI with SageMaker. First ones to migrate mainframes. For HHS, do a proof of concept to migrate, and then won the whole thing to migrate. So I think it's more and more thinking big, what can we do together? And for me, it's been an 11-year journey for AWS. It's been a 20-year journey for me, because I was a Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and Leidos was a key partner there too. So I came to AWS to give back to the public sector, and I'm so thrilled that Leidos is doing so many good things.
Great, thanks. Well, Eric, can you share a little more about your perspective from the DigMod sector and Leidos more broadly about why external technology partnerships are so important to us?
Yeah, so let me start by just thanking the 3 of you on behalf of all the Leidos folks that are here for the partnership that you've engaged in with us. It's been really tremendously rewarding to work with each of your companies on the various initiatives you guys just talked about, so thank you. I had a bunch of really great notes that I took that I was going to talk about the importance to the country. And then Tom and General Mattis got up here this morning, and I thought, I can't possibly in any way be more, convincing and eloquent than the 2 of them. But I do think I'll just maybe foot stomp a couple of things that they highlighted that I think are critical, which is they talked about the need to have speed to innovation, and it's absolutely critical. And Tom, you just mentioned scale, and I think Leidos is uniquely positioned as a company at being big enough to be able to scale solutions, right? But agile enough to be able to be the bridge for our customers between commercial technology providers and the missions that our customers serve. And given the threats that we as a nation and a set of partner nations face, I think that is why it is so critical that we continue to exercise these partnerships, because the uniqueness that Leidos has in our market is to be that conduit to bring your commercial innovations like you all are driving into the market. So that's what I'll say.
All right, great. Well, next question is really for our partners. these kinds of partnerships we're talking about really require a lot of trust, a lot of communication, a lot of deep collaboration. So as you look to potential partners, what do you look for in a partner? What's kind of made Leidos a partner of choice for you moving forward? Maybe Tom, you can get us started here.
Sure. I think it's, and I'm thrilled to see you guys, by the way, these new things, new ideas starting to scale. So I think what we look for in a partner is that vision. So think big. What is the vision of what can we do together? And then come up with a story. Why does this partnership matter? We all have to justify it to somebody. So why do we partner with Leidos? Where we have a shared vision. We work together. We meet quarterly, monthly, daily on things. So we look for that in a partner. Shared vision, co-investments, and being able to execute fast. But more than anything, trust. And how do you build trust? Over time, by doing things together. So it's that action. That's what we really look for in a partner. And Leidos has been great. It's great.
Bhavin?
Yeah, so look, I think we have 350 large enterprises on the platform, and Leidos is one of them. So from our perspective, your bias towards action has been really attractive for us to partner with you all. Just after the keynote, I sat down with Tom and talking about new features that we're rolling out, right? And to be able to be a customer of ours, to have the insight into where we're strong, where we need to improve, really gives this partnership a different lens and a different sort of affordance when going out to the public sector. And I think that was sort of key for us in terms of figuring out, who could do the job. Not only that, you guys have been instrumental in sort of working with us on thinking about what is required to be successful, what are the components, and also training your team to work with us. So I think the combination, but also I think first and foremost, you being a customer, living what we do and understanding what we do makes you an authentic seller when it comes to going to the public sector and saying, look, you should try this, you should use this, because you can not just speak to a sheet of benefits, you can actually talk about your own use case.
Mm-hmm. Quinn, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, for us, we love the inspiration from Leidos, the feedback and the co-development. On inspiration, it's hard to come up with a set of missions that are more inspirational than the kind of stuff that we get to work with Leidos on. On the feedback, just as Bhavin said, we love customer feedback. We love all customer feedback, but there's a special kind of feedback that comes from a customer who is also thinking, not only how do they use the product, but how can they get a lot of other people to use it? And that kind of feedback is critical. For us in particular, one of the things that Leidos has made really clear is that how can we focus on how Sourcegraph helps developers do the parts of their job that they least like to do and that they are worst at? And how can we message that to the audience there? And then finally, on the co-development, there are things that Leidos knows about the government that are years ahead of what we would have figured out. For example, the need to run an AI software development assistant in a fully air-gapped environment, how to actually do that. And I'd like to give a shout out to Rob Linger, who's been a fantastic partner on Leidos' side in helping us co-develop that capability.
All right, thank you. So Eric, next question for you, at least a topic I want you to help us get started on about open architectures. Why are open architectures so important to Leidos and to our customers?
We're an integrator, right? And we're focused on mission outcomes, not point solutions. And the reality is most of our customers are operating in a brownfield environment where we don't have the luxury of dictating the entire technical stack. And so as we look to who we're going to partner with, companies that understand that and have a modular architecture that's flexible, it's focused on integrations, means that we can go to customers and actually help them plan their journey to the adoption of whatever the commercial technology that we're trying to bring to bear is. Going to those customers and trying to dictate a closed system that they are not going to have any visibility into, that they're going to be locked into, and that they have to throw away, probably years and years of investment, just isn't practical for us. And so As our solution architects, probably many of whom are in this room and probably many more downstairs, are looking for how do we meet customers' mission outcomes, solutions that we can integrate into an entire mission ecosystem is absolutely critical. And that's why open architectures are such an important part. And it's why all three of your solutions are so important to the way that we go to market, because they are focused on all of those elements.
All right, so now I'd like to hear from each of our partners about this. Each of you as companies have made your own commitments to open architecture, which have been really important to why we are comfortable moving forward with you as partners. So each of you takes different approaches to this issue of open architecture, though you all embrace it. And I'd like to know a little bit about how you think about open architectures and also how you kind of embrace that as part of your overall strategy. So maybe, Bhavin, you can get us started this time.
So this has been part of our thesis from the very beginning. We were one of the first companies to deploy the BERT model back in 2019, sort of ushering this new era of transformer models. From there, Roberta, there's a whole family tree, as you know, of these different models, working with OpenAI on GPT-2, then finally on GPT-3, and then now to GPT-4o. And if you think about the AI space, it's a very unstable landscape. It's changing all the time. You're hearing, Zuck's now trying to, show the world that everything should be open source with 3.1 or Llama 3.1, and then Mistral has an answer to that. And when we talk to organizations about all these innovations, while they're exciting, they're very daunting and they're debilitating for them to be able to then act on those or to leverage those. And so a lot of what we do, and we use Bedrock for some of our infrastructure, is we want to create this sort of stable interface that then can leverage all of these innovations that are constantly sort of coming into the market. And it's our job to do so. But when you don't have that and you sort of go after one, a provider of an LLM, let's say you say, oh, GPT 3.5 is great or GPT-4 Turbo. Well, it doesn't work for every use case. And if it does, it sometimes is overweight. So we see companies, organizations trying to figure out who their winner is. And then they've got this very, complex model that they're trying to deploy for a simple solution. It's like taking a rocket ship to the grocery store. It makes no sense. So what you have to do is you have to think about what models, what types of innovation can actually be applied for these use cases, and just be very open about who you work with, because you never know when the next set of innovations will come from.
Great. Maybe Quinn, you can take it next.
Yeah, we know that if you're a software developer in any large organization, you have to constantly go from this tool to this tool to that tool to do your job. The average enterprise has 70 different tools that software developers need to use. And if the humans need to use those tools to do their job, to fix the bug, to modernize the software, well, then the AI does too. And so we need to make it so that our product integrates in a really first-class way with all of these different tools that know things about code and software. For example, how is the AI going to fix the damn bug if it can't even see the error message? And the error message might be in some service on AWS, it might be in Sentry or Datadog or Splunk or App Dynamics and so on. So from the very beginning, because we work with enterprises and large organizations, we've had to build Sourcegraph in a way that integrates with the current stack they have. And by the way, sometimes they have more than one tool for a given task. So we've seen it all, and we continue to have our minds blown by the number of tools that are used, but we've always wanted to integrate as cleanly as possible. And that is a great fit for the government sector as well, because they use a lot of different tools for the job.
Great.
So I love this topic. And that's, in fact, one of the reasons I joined AWS a while back. I picked AWS at JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, because it was open. Because one thing, can never fall in love with the solution, fall in love with the problem, because the solution will iterate and iterate and iterate. And if you are locked in, then you're stuck. So AWS believes in choice. And I'm very proud that, databases, 15 different databases, chipsets, pick whatever makes the most sense. We have specialized chips for inferencing, we have specialized chips for training, et cetera. Large language models, we don't know which one is going to rule them all, which ring will rule them all. In fact, nobody will. So as you said, it'll blow our minds what's coming next. Same thing for quantum computers. You can use AWS Bracket and then access the quantum computers. We don't know which one is going to come next. And if we lock our customers in, they can't evolve. And it gives our partners a choice to evolve with the infrastructure. So I think that's really key. AWS contributes a lot to open source. As a personal story, I built robots at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, but we spent a lot of time building the software and building the hardware. So we got 3D printers, and AWS was supporting robotic operating system, ROS. So we could now adopt that and not worry about spending time writing that software for ground-based rovers. So all of a sudden you get these choices. And I'm very happy that Leidos is helping out, because it's all about the customer.
Wonderful.
So customers has choice.
All right. Well, look, it's 2024, and we cannot have a panel about technology in 2024 without talking a little bit about AI. So, and many of you know this is a topic near and dear to my heart. I can't imagine also a better group to hear about AI from than our panelists. So I'd like to ask each of you kind of a two-part question. First is, we're almost 2 years now since the launch of ChatGPT and kind of the beginning really of public awareness of this generative AI revolution. What are the most important things we've learned since the launch of ChatGPT? And then the second part of the question is, what are we all going to be talking about in AI at next year's Supplier Forum? So Quinn, why don't you get us started?
The most interesting thing to me about the AI revolution is that the end user products are still just not quite there yet. ChatGPT is incredible, but how often do you actually use it on a weekly basis? 1 or 2 times a week. There's some people probably here that use it a ton, but you see that in all of these verticals, you see even less adoption. We ran the numbers, and in the US, less than 5% of professional software developers are using Code AI at work regularly. And of those 5% that do, most of them are just scratching the surface. So it is so early in this. And that's the thing that just continues to shock us. How do you make it so that these end user tools are actually used all the time, day in, day out, 50 times a day by a software developer? That's the challenge we have. And we made a ton of progress with you all, but that's the humbling truth and also exciting future, because for all the impact it's had so far, we are just getting started.
All right, so what are we going to be talking about at next year's forum?
I think more software developers using Code AI, and what we've done to make it so that those devs that today are saying, oh, I don't need it, or I've been doing it this way for 30 years, we want them to be hopefully up on stage saying, hey, you won me over, and has changed how I build software. That's the goal.
All right, Bhavin, why don't you go ahead next?
Yeah, I think just when we started this company about 8 years ago, and we're one of the few companies sort of providing an LLM-based solution. And then ChatGPT came out, and everyone was now talking about LLM. So I think that what we've seen in the near term is just a broad awareness and excitement for bringing co-pilots and use cases to employees across different industries, different verticals, different roles. And you have quite a few co-pilots now coming out. And I think that's leading to some co-pilot chaos, if you will, where people are trying to figure out, the best strategy. And I think as that starts to settle, people start to figure out, okay, it's not just going to be one co-pilot for everyone, but it's going to be a few, some that service all employees, some that service just the engineering team, some that service the sales teams, et cetera. So I think that's where we currently are at in terms of that still working its way through the systems. What you're going to hear a lot more about next year, and this year is already starting to occur, especially on sort of the technical levels as we talk about our product, is the word agentic. You're hearing Mark Zuckerberg talk about it, Aaron Levy from Box is talking about it, Mustafa Suleyman from Microsoft is talking about it, Sam Altman is talking about it, and it's this idea of using a multi-headed AI system that can coordinate amongst itself to do complex tasks. Because if you think about what ChatGPT introduced us to was the idea of generating output, text. But really to take it to the next level, to deliver real value, you want to be able to do work on behalf of users. And to do that, you need a more complex environment, one that's aware of the actions that can be taken. And that's something that we've been spending a lot of time on. I know that the folks at Leidos will soon get the new agentic version of our platform. But this is sort of where I think people are now starting to move, is that the LLM is clear in what it can provide, but as you abstract it at higher levels, you can actually have it do far more complex, far more system-wide, company-wide types of problems that will bring a lot of value to the organization.
All right.
So I think with the ChatGPT growing so fast, it opened everybody's eyes to what can be done if you're agile enough to pivot. So whoever can spell AI, all of a sudden got a huge multiple if they could say Gen AI. And the thing, what we've seen so far, we looked at the data, and we have our version called Bedrock and SageMaker. It creates a really good draft, generative AI, but it's still a draft. It can save you about 80% of your time. But by goodness, don't release that. A human still has to look at it. And one of the things that we looked at is scale. So when you use Bedrock on AWS, you hook into all of the other solutions that companies are using. And machine learning, and nowadays I call it plain old machine learning, it's table stakes. If you don't have that, you do nothing. So it's part of operations. Generative AI has shown us what's possible, but it's still a draft. I think, and people are starting to talk, how much does it cost? So next year, I think we're going to talk about how much did it cost? What is it doing at scale? Which large language model worked the best for what use case? I think we're also going to be talking about embedded AI in devices. So the extreme edge will be, and you can query your digital twin, your complex digital twin using natural language. So we call it Amazon Q is our way of, you can ask any questions. And I'm going to talk about next time we'll talk about what is the next disruptive trend. And I am talking about that this afternoon, if anybody's interested. But generative AI is here to stay, but it's going to solidify at scale, I think.
Great. Eric.
So I think what ChatGPT has taught me is probably a lesson that I should have known, but it's always good to relearn, is that scaling and integrating into the government and regulated environments is really hard. It's like, you watched all these curves of adoption and you're like, yeah, okay, that's interesting, but when is it going to apply to our customers? So I think, that was the thing is, the hype curve has started to, maybe die down a little bit, but the real work is still very much ahead of us for scaling and integrating into our customer sets. And then next year, and I think Bhavin touched on this a little bit, I think we're going to be talking about sprawl and hopefully convergence. Like, we are going to, I think, find ourselves in a year with a situation where we've actually created a lot more challenging ecosystem for employees and people to work in, where there's AI systems all over the place that they're expected to leverage to take advantage of. And I think there's going to be a natural evolution towards some degree of convergence that Bhavin talked about. And I am excited to hear what that starts to look like a year from now.
All right. Well, it's been an extraordinary honor to get to talk to this panel. And so I'd like to thank you all so much, not only for your comments today, but for your amazing partnerships with Leidos. We can't do it without you, and harnessing the power of, our commercial partnerships is just core to our future. Again, you heard that from Tom Bell. We are going to become increasingly, someday we'll strike that word supplier, honestly, from the picture, and it's going to be partner, right? Because this is all about deep technology partnerships moving forward. So thank you so much to all of our panelists. Thank you.